congratulations, you prayed. Now maybe that's something you're accustomed to. Maybe that's not something you're accustomed to. If you're joining online or whatever, hey, complexity is the enemy of execution. Keep it simple. Just chat with God. Just keep it simple. Complexity is the enemy of execution. All right, now, if you found any of those prompts helpful, on the back bulletin board, there's a sheet kind of like this. Just take a photo of it with your phone. And these are just little prompts of ideas for talking with God. And some of them are what we used this morning. There's others as well. And it's aimed to be something that's useful for adults and children alike. Right? So there's no shame in that. I think it's a really useful tool. But there it is. All right, so this morning, we are continuing we're really just beginning to get into our new sermon series on the Scroll of the 12, which sounds very enigmatic and exciting. The Scroll of the 12. And the Scroll of the 12 is really the Hebrew Bible's way of referring to what we call the minor prophets. And the minor prophets are the minor prophets not because they're less than the major prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. It's not because they're less important or they're a bit like JV, they're like sitting on the bench and ready to go in once one of the starting 11 dips out. It's not that. It's just they're shorter. That's all. They're like the longest is about 14 chapters as opposed to like 30 or 40 or 60 chapters, in the major prophets. That's really why we call them minor as opposed to major. But actually, in the Hebrew scriptures, they're all lumped together as the Scroll of the 12. And combined, the Scroll of the 12 is just as lengthy, really, as any of the major prophets. And the Scroll of the 12 are basically a collection of Hebrew prophets who are giving God's understanding of what's happening with the nation of Israel through their history as understood from what was then their Bible, the first 5 books of the Bible, the Law of Moses, the Pentateuch, or the Torah, it's all sometimes called. It's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? So these prophets are taking what God has said in what was then their Bible and understanding Israel's past and present according to the Bible and the inspiring or interpretive ministry of the Holy Spirit so as to relay God's thoughts on the matter and to be able to project into the future what is going to happen, not just based on imagination or ecstasy, but really based on the Scripture and the Holy Spirit's interpretive sort of power. Now, we're going to jump into Hosea. Any of you are like, I'm trying to get more prophetic. We just need to be more prophetic. I want to learn to operate in the prophetic. Careful what you wish for, all right? Because we're going to talk about Hosea, who's a prophet, who's got some pretty steamy, sort of prophetic engagement, that you and I may or may not be so keen to engage in. All right, but before we do that, again, a little bit of history. Obviously, we go through this history quite regularly. God, after everything goes all cattywampus with humanity and violence fills the earth, and then there's a flood, and then we kind of start over, and then humans still manage to muck it up, God makes a covenant with Abram, whose name is changed to Abraham. And Abraham and his son Isaac and Isaac's son Jacob, right, we refer to them as the patriarchs. Jacob wrestles with the angel of the Lord, and his name gets changed to Israel, from which we then get the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 sons of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. And this covenant, this promise that God makes, kind of passes through these sons to these 12 tribes, and eventually, having been enslaved in Egypt, the whole nation of Israel gets delivered. God brings them to Mount Sinai, and at Mount Sinai says, I'm going to be your God, you're going to be my people. Right? And that's not just a mechanical arrangement. It's also like unto a marriage. Right? I'm going to be your husband, you're going to be my wife. Right? And so one of the 10 commandments is don't take the name of the Lord your God in vain. And we talked about this the other. That's not just like I shouldn't throw out a GD when I stub my toe. I shouldn't just misuse a reference to God like God or Jesus Christ or something like that. It's not simply that. It's no. If we're getting married, you're taking my name, That needs to mean something. My dad, when I was a kid, he used to tell us sometimes when we were teenagers going out, he'd say something akin to, I've worked hard for the name Nevins to mean something good in the community. Please don't behave in such a way or do something that would challenge that. In other words, he's saying, you have the name Nevins, don't take that in vain. That shouldn't be meaningless. That should be meaningful. To be a Nevins should mean something good. Similarly, the people of Israel, called by God's name, married to him, as it were, taking on his name, that's meant to mean something. And so he enters into this covenant with them, and along with that covenant is these terms of the law. This is how your society is to be organized. This is how you're to conduct yourself. If you do this, it will go well for you. When you don't do it, it will go badly for you. Foreign nations will come conquer you and exile you, but I will bring you back in faithfulness. I will restore you in my faithfulness to the promises I've made. Right? That's sort of the nutshell of it. And what we see throughout the course of Israel's history, as they enter into what we call the Promised Land or the Holy Land, present-day Israel, Palestine, right? They eventually get a king, Saul, then David, and David, then Solomon. And after Solomon, because Solomon was a bit of he's a really good king, but he also was not a very good king. And so basically there's conflict between his sons over who is the rightful ruler, and the United Kingdom divides. And there's a northern kingdom of Israel, which is 10 of the tribes, and a southern kingdom of Judah, which is 2 of the tribes. The northern kingdom of Israel sets up its capital in Samaria, and the southern kingdom of Judah retains the capital in Jerusalem. There's so much interesting stuff in this. I'm being so disciplined right now. You have no idea. All right? Oh, man. All right, I'm just going to tell you. All right, I'm going to tell you one thing. It's important, trust me. It'll come up in Hosea. The golden calf, a baby cow. What's that about? Baby cow comes up time and time again. At Mount Sinai, Moses goes up to get the covenant, and the Israelites make a big golden calf. And they're worshiping with the golden calf. And Moses comes out, he's like, no, I haven't even given you the commandment to not make an idol, and you already have. I'm not even going to deliver this covenant, because if I do, then we're going to get smote. You know, Moses breaking the 10 Commandments was like a mercy. He's like, oh, we've already busted it up. If I don't deliver it to them, then they never knew. You know? Why did the Israelites set up a golden calf? Why a calf of all bizarre things? In the ancient Near Eastern world, one of the ways that gods would be depicted is often with like in a chariot with bulls or calves pulling it, sometimes even seen stood with the feet on the backs of calves. Like that's his sort of vehicle, as it were. What the Israelites were doing was taking what they knew, what they thought they knew about gods or God, and applying it to the God who just delivered them up from slavery in Egypt and who had made promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And what they were doing was doing exactly what they thought was the right thing to do in many respects, because gods, in their mind, live on mountaintops. And God had just descended on Mount Sinai with smoke and fire and drama. And they were making Mount Sinai God's throne and giving him a footstool at Mount Sinai. And God was saying, no, please, that's not how I am. I'm not like all these other gods that you know. I don't operate the way gods operate as you perceive them. I don't live on a mountaintop. I'm going to live with you. I'm not going to live way up here, and only a couple people can ever see me or talk to me. I'm going to live with you, and I'm going to travel with you, and I'm going to be present with you. I'm going to pitch my tent with you and all of your tents. Right? But still, what they had done was bad. even if they maybe had good intentions. And they were saying, ooh, I've figured this out based on what I know and I perceive and I understand. And they're not sitting back and saying, actually, but can God speak for himself about what he wants? And this is an absolutely critical element of relationship that's going to come up in a moment in Hosea. In relationship, does the other get to speak for themselves and have their own thoughts and their own desires and their own wishes that can be communicated and honored and respected? Or do we have just our own self-contained understandings that we just operate from? And so what happens is when the northern kingdom of Israel separates from the southern kingdom of Judah, they did something really crazy. Right? They set up a golden calf in the very far north of their kingdom, Dan, and in the very south of their kingdom, Bethel. And what they were communicating, and they were actually being, in a certain sense, traditionalists. They were saying, God stands over us. We live in the shelter and in the shadow of God. And they retained Bethel and Shechem and Shiloh and all of these ancient places where God had visited Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they were saying, we're going to worship God here, in this way, not in Jerusalem like he's commanded. We live in the shadow of the Most High. We have the ancient places. This is what we understand. This is what we know. Now, in addition to that, not only were they disobedient to God's law in terms of how they were approaching him and how they were worshiping him, but also they're adding into that what we would call idolatry, worshiping other gods like Baal, Ashtoreth, Molech, and others. And you even get times where people are in the northern kingdom of Israel are engaging in human sacrifice to whatever god or gods, and possibly even thinking that they should offer a human sacrifice to Yahweh, possibly. And God's going, no, 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 no. All right, so and I appreciate this is delicate. All right, I appreciate this is delicate. In marriage, right, there's certain terms of the marriage. You know, things that like mechanics of the marriage. Who does what and why? What does a husband do and what does a wife do? And there's slight differences between marriages and that sort of thing, and that's fine. But there's a certain mechanics to it, right? And if those mechanics get violated, then there can be problems, right? But actually, the marriage isn't just about the mechanics, is it? That mechanics, that economy of things, actually is an outworking or is meant to be an expression of some sort of deeper, fundamental love, care, respect, vulnerability with one another. And so you can have all of the mechanics in place, but still, like a coconut, it's just a bit hollow inside. You know, and a good whack will crack it all up. Right? But if you have that solid core, you know, then actually you can whack that coconut and maybe the outer bit will crack, but actually you're not going to disturb what's essence, what is essential in that. And so there's a sense when we see with the northern kingdom of Israel, this sense of they've lost the core and they're deviating from the mechanics, right? And so a whack is going to come and it just busts the whole thing up. But we're also going to see something about the heart of God towards his people. And that's what we really want to catch as I introduce the entire book of Hosea. All right? No. Dude, we're doing good on time, comparatively speaking. So, all right. All of that sort of sitting in the choir stalls for us, and that's all going to draw in on what we're getting to when we read Hosea. I'm going to read a decent chunk here from Hosea, beginning in chapter 1. And just bear this in mind when you're like, I would love to grow in the gift of prophecy, be a prophet. Would you? Or do you just want to have special insights? All right, let's see what prophecy looks like for Hosea. Chapter 1, verse 1. The word of the Lord came to Hosea, son of Beeri, during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and during the reign of Jeroboam, son of Jehoash, king of Israel. There's a real guy in real time, real space. All right? When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, go. We've, in our modern translations, we've softened this a little bit. Go, marry a promiscuous woman. All right? Older translations just name it for what it is. Marry a prostitute. Okay? Do you really want to be a prophet? Do you want to operate in the prophetic? Okay. Anyway, let's go on. Go, marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her. For like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord. So he married Gomer. What a name. She must have been a stone-cold fox, right? Gomer. All right. I shouldn't judge her based on her name. That's really rude, and that's terrible of me. I'm a bad person, just so you know. I'm no better than, yeah, all right. All right, so he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, who is to blame for Gomer. No, I'm joking. All right. And she conceived and bore him a son. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. In that day I will break Israel's bow in the valley of Jezreel. Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call her Ruhamah, which means not loved. What if your name meant not loved? Your dad named you not loved. That's terrible. Okay, so, for I will no longer show love to Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Whoa. Yet I will show love to Judah, and I will save them, not by bow, sword, or battle, or by horses or horsemen, but I, the Lord their God, will save them. After she had weaned Ruhamah, Gomer had another son. The Lord said, call him Lo-Ami, which means not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. In other words, you have absolutely violated this marriage. You've absolutely, unequivocally violated this marriage. All right? Yet the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted, which cannot be, I'm sorry, I just read that. In the place where it is said of them, you are not my people, they will be called children of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel will come together. They will appoint one leader and will come up out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. Say to your brothers, my people, and to your sisters, my loved one. And so in this introductory chapter, we see what's going on here. We see that God, through the prophet Hosea, is revealing and expressing in the most dramatic and emotionally intense terms. My people have violated our covenant. They have taken my name in vain. And we read through the rest of Hosea how they've searched out for other gods. See, the terms of the covenant with Yahweh at Mount Sinai was, if you honor this marriage, right? It will go well for you. You'll be fruitful in the things that you do and whatever you endeavor at. You'll be safe from harm and attack. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we're all laboring for? Some measure of security and fruitfulness. your work, you wake up in the morning and you go to work and you get a paycheck, or you've done that for however long, in order to have security and fruitfulness. You hope that the fruit of your labor will be plentiful, that the juice is worth the squeeze day in and day out, and that it provides enough for you to keep not only a roof over your head, but a decent roof over your head. Not only food to eat, but decent food to eat. Right? Not just any old clothes to wear, but some nice clothes to wear. Maybe even a holiday. And we work and we strive to have security and to be fruitful. And God's saying, actually, your security and your fruitfulness is tied to me. Not because I'm like a stingy dad, like some sort of abusive, manipulative person who's like, you're not going to get good stuff unless you do what I say. Right? Which is the caricature that we hear from time to time. It's just a statement of fact. God's like, no, I am security and fruitfulness. Anything that's fruitful is because it's consistent with me, because I am life. Like, that's just the way, it's like gravity. Right? But like any other relationship, God's saying, but I do have terms to this. Right? Like, and at the end of the day, what I really desire, what I really want, is our shared love between one another. That's really what I want. And yeah, in this law that I'm giving you, when you mess up, there's means of restoration. You can make sacrifices. There's a means to like get that right. And what we read in Hosea is, but actually, I'm not really interested in the sacrifices. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. It comes from Hosea, among other places. It's a consistent theme throughout the Old Testament. God's saying, yeah, the sacrifices is a pleasing aroma and all the rest of it. But actually, what I really want, what I really care about is mercy. What I really care about is love shared between us. Because if there isn't love shared between us, but I have all of your sacrifices, I could really care less. Or I couldn't care less. Because I own all the cattle on 1,000 hills. The earth is mine and everything in it. Guess what? I don't need your sacrifice. What I want is you. That's what I want. And I've taken the first step. I desire you, and I've taken the first step by giving myself to you first. You know that time when you like maybe fancy someone, and you're like, maybe you're younger, maybe when you're older, whatever, and who's going to make the first move? I'm going to like hint at it, you know, kind of give a little side thing and hope that they kind of notice so they make the first step, because I don't want to make the first step, but I want to let them know that they can if they want to. But if they don't want to, they don't have to. God, not being arrogant, but being confident because, well, he's God, makes that vulnerable first move. It says, I've given myself to you. I am giving myself to you so that you know you can give yourself to me. But like so many bad relationship partners, what Israel and what we do is we get interested in the fruit of the relationship rather than the core of the relationship. Israel's concerned with security and concerned with fruitfulness. They want their crops to grow, and they want to build big cities, and they want to have lots of babies and have big armies and, you know, all the rest of it. And so they hedge their bets. They hedge their bets just in case Yahweh, just in case the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob doesn't come through. And so they offer sacrifices to Baal, and they offer sacrifices to Asherah, and they offer sacrifices to Molech and whomever else. Because those are gods who will promise fruitfulness and security as well. And God's going, what's up? How's that work? That's not how we roll. And Hosea continues in chapter 2, some pretty harsh stuff. really condemning Israel's unfaithfulness. Then in chapter 3, the Lord said to me, and this is Gomer has left Hosea at this point in time and gone back into sexual slavery to make money. You're like, how's that slavery? But not all slavery is like we understand slavery. Anyway, the Lord said to me, go show love to your wife again. Though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress, love her as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods and love the sacred raisin cakes. Oh, what's a sacred raisin cake? Raisin cakes were like it's kind of like, shall we have oysters tonight? You know, it's that kind of thing. It's considered to be some sort of an aphrodisiac of some sort, okay? So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and about a homer and a lethek of barley. I don't even know how much that is, but I don't have a lethek of barley. I know that. You know, that's because I don't have barley. Anyhow, then I told her, you're to live with me many days. It's like Donald Trump. You will live with me many days. You will live with me many days. And you must not be a prostitute or be intimate with any man, for I will behave the same way towards you. Just, can you imagine for a moment the shame and the humiliation of that? Your wife goes back to some other man who's her pimp and is making money being with other men. And she's your wife. And you come and you know, like people have cash anymore, you know, get out your phone to tap. It's too much to tap. We'll probably have to do a chip and pin. You know, to get your wife back. You're like, let's try this again. For a longer period of time, please. And you don't be with other people, and guess what? I won't be with other people too. Can we do that? Keep it simple. Complexity is the enemy of execution. Keep it simple. And can I just say, it's really easy to like go, Israel's ridiculous. But don't we do the same kind of thing? Even though God is the source of fruitfulness and security because he is life, if you're like me, you've hedged your bets. You've hedged your bets. And whether you've leaned in, and we don't call these gods, but nevertheless we serve them. You've heard me say this before. We don't call them gods, but we serve them. We have a pantheon of gods. Education is one of them. Career is another one of them. Physical fitness is another one of them. Hobbies is another one of them. Relationships is another one of them. You know, pharmacia, like medication, not just medication like because I'm ill and I need some ibuprofen or an antibiotic, but like drugs and alcohol, that kind of thing. We have this whole pantheon of things that we offer ourselves to as a living sacrifice. Being run, I mean, some of you guys have run yourselves ragged in your careers. And I'm not judging that. I'm just saying, let's just be honest. You've offered yourself as a living sacrifice to your career. And that, like, I'm not like, your job is bad, you shouldn't work hard. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what we know is deep in our heart, we're serving that for security and fruitfulness. We're trusting our career, we're trusting our education, we're trusting our relationships, we're trusting all these different things for security and fruitfulness. And God is another thing that we kind of keep Jesus as one of those things that we serve to maintain and to guarantee and ensure our security and fruitfulness. And so like, okay, I'll dig into these habits. I'll read the Bible, I'll pray, I'll fellowship, I'll evangelize, I'll fast and I'll be generous. But is there that core? If that shell gets whacked, what happens to your faith and my faith? if it crumbles, it's just like Jesus talked about the parable of the sower. Seed falls on the road, on rocky soil, thorny soil, and good soil. The rocky soil and the thorny soil, the seed looks like it's going to grow. It begins to grow. It looks like it's legit. It's there. But it gets whacked. Hard times. The pleasures and pursuits of the world, whatever, come and shatter it because it didn't have the root of faith. But on good soil, it had the root of faith. And so I guess what I'm really wanting to get us to this morning, there's so many more other things. Maybe we'll do 2 weeks in Hosea, because there's some stuff. Maybe we'll do Hosea again next week. I try to keep these things a little bit open-ended, but that's okay. Really, what I want us to think about from Hosea this week is actually, do we love God from the heart? And I think some might say to me very reasonably, I'd like to, but it's hard to love someone or something from the heart that you haven't seen. That seems a bit unbelievable. That seems a bit fantastic. Not like, ooh, that's fantastic, but like a fantasy. That's a tall order, Peter. And I get that. And I want to remember Jesus' words. There's much love where much is forgiven, and little love where little is forgiven. And I want to revisit something I wasn't planning on this, but revisit that same thing we've talked about a couple weeks ago, about where we sort of know we should have achieved or been. What are the things I should have said, I should have done, I should have thought, I should have felt that I didn't? Or what are the things I shouldn't have that I did? We say it in our confession every Sunday. We've done some things and left other things undone. And thought, word, and deed, through negligence, through weakness, through our own deliberate fault. And there's this thing. And we're like, that's overwhelming. That feels really bad. I don't like that negative emotion. I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed. That's too much. That standard is unfair. So we drop the standard. And I did this for it. And we make excuses. We justify ourselves. And then we try to do some things to make up for it, to cover it over. The word atone literally means to cover over. So then we're like, see, okay, this is manageable. God, what's your problem? What's the big deal? You're going to make a big deal about this? I don't think you're very nice, really. Or, God's only forgiven me this much. That's not too bad. I don't feel so bad about myself anymore. Well, is that the truth, first of all? And second of all, perhaps that's why my or your love for God might be small. You know what? All your good deeds don't make up for the bad stuff you've done. All of your justifications and rationalizations are fine, but you still did it or didn't do it. And the standard is the standard. And in all of that, God loves you. And in all of that, God, like Hosea, took all the shame and embarrassment. Remember, the New Testament is more concerned about the shame of the cross than the pain of the cross. And we're sitting here going, oh, my shame, my embarrassment, my humiliation, me. And not thinking about God's shame and God's embarrassment, because he's given himself in love to a people who said, thanks, I'll add you to my stack. You've got a place on my shelf now. And in all of that shame and humiliation that we've offered to God, God says, and I love you, and I will have you back, and I will pay to have you back. All right, I'm going to jump in. I just can't resist. Hosea chapter 6, verse 1. Come, let us return to the Lord. He has torn us to pieces, but he will heal us. He has injured us, but he will bind up our wounds. After 2 days, he will revive us. On the third day, he will restore us, that we may live in his presence. Let us acknowledge the Lord. Let us press on to acknowledge him. As surely as the sun rises, he will appear. He will come to us like the winter rains, like the spring rains that water the earth. And this is all very similar to Hosea chapter 13, verse 14. God says, I will deliver this people from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. Where, O death, are your plagues? Where, O grave, is your destruction? And some of us might recall that these passages have a lot to do with Jesus, his death, and his resurrection. And the Apostle Paul refers to them directly as well, with Jesus' resurrection. At the end of the day, the true Hosea is Jesus. At the end of the day, the true Israel, I don't mean this don't get confused, but is us. You and me. We're the ones who go after other lovers for fruitfulness and security, not totally trusting in our partner, who is God. It's not just about my shame and embarrassment because of the dumb things I've done. It's about God's shame and embarrassment because I've dishonored him and publicly humiliated him. But God is the better Hosea because, we can look at Hosea and be like, chump. And God's like, I've got the shoulders. I've got the price. I will recover you. And he would just say to you and to me this morning, live with me many days. Live with me many days. I've accepted the shame of what you've done. Live with me many days. Don't do that again, please. I won't do that to you. Can we have that core love for and from and with God through Christ, so that all that other stuff has meaning. And whatever comes in it, whatever cracks it, we stand firm. Amen? All right, let's stand to sing as we prepare for our time of confession.